Oh my! This has just been a blessing. I look so forward, and I respect these guys so much. I mean, Steve is the one who originally had the idea, and I respect Steve. I grew up. How many of you have heard the Stutzman family? Oh yeah, sure. And so Steve, I grew up listening to Steve Stutzman back when they were with Gospel Express, and in fact, my parents grew up listening to Steve sing, and my grandparents actually met at a concert where Steve was singing, and so. Anyways, like I said, I think of his wife Dorcas as a sort of a mother figure, and same with Steve. I think of him as a grandpa, and so it's just a blessing to be in my life, and so we come and we have a great time, and then there's food, and of course this is bad because we're having an ice cream social, and much like Ron, I also should do some fasting for multiple reasons, and it was first day of spring this week, right? Does anybody know what happens at Dairy Queen on the first day of spring? Sure you all do. You're Mennonites too. So I had this thing. So here I am on this diet, and yet Dairy Queen's got free ice cream. Oh. For those of you that are like under a bubble, don't have Facebook or whatever, they have free ice cream on first day of spring. So I decided, what am I going to do? I want this free ice cream, and yet I'm on my diet. So I just prayed, and I said, God, if you want me, and it was a very, very busy day, right? So I thought, this is a fair prayer. God, if you want me to go to Dairy Queen and get my free ice cream, there will be a parking spot right by the front door. And wouldn't you know, 7 times around the block, there was... So, thank you, Jesus. So, wow. Now, I'm curious, does anybody know what I do for my real job? Most people don't call it my real job. I did a company banquet for all Amish, and this really nice older guy, he asked me, so what do you do? I said, well, I was just out in Indiana last week. Oh, in Ohio last week. This is my 20th event for this month. He's like, wow, how do you have time to work? So thanks for that. This is my real job. For those of you that don't know, I'm a professional speaker. I'm a ventriloquist. Is there anybody that doesn't know what a ventriloquist is? So a ventriloquist is like a puppeteer. Everything I do, I try not to move my lips, but it is me doing all the talking. And so Steve said, would you do a little bit of ventriloquist? I said, I'd be happy to help out, whatever you need. And I owe him certain things for things he's done. And the great news is now he owes me certain things. But I've always loved this, and it's funny because somebody asked me, they said, do you pull pranks with ventriloquism? And I try not to. I've had some bad experiences. I will never be asked to be a pallbearer again. But that's a story for another time. I cannot tell that story due to some pending litigation. But anyways, I did have one story I wanted to share with you before I do a little ventriloquism for you. They asked if I would help at a Christmas program, and I didn't really know what I was doing. This was a long time ago. It was at my wife's church before we were married, and would you help? And I'm trying to impress the parents and everything. So, sure, yeah, what do you need? Well, we're going to have you stand up and be Joseph. I said, what does that mean? They're going to give you a staff, bathrobe, baby doll. You're going to stand up there. You're going to be Joseph. Fine. What I did not realize is this is one of those all-church spectaculars where like everybody helps with something. So there's like 6-year-old shepherds, 7-year-old wise men. The 6-year-old shepherds are causing chaos. When the angel of the Lord appears to them, instead of looking scared like they're supposed to, they start laughing at the angel during practice. And I was like, we need to teach these little kids a lesson. Then I remembered, here I am, I'm standing up on this stage with this doll in my hand. What would happen if suddenly, just all of a sudden, well, those 6-year-old shepherds looked like they just saw a multitude of heavenly hosts, and they were so afraid. That's right, we used King James. Anyways, that was the last time I was invited to help out at the Christmas program. So when I get out, that's the way to do it. All right, I'm going to get my little buddy Jeffrey. Jeffrey has been with me now to 6 different continents, making people laugh. He has been to Mexico with me, Belize this year. He's going to the Mediterranean with me for Greece later on this year. So he loves getting around meeting people. I know he's going to have a great time with you all. Would you please put your hands together and welcome my buddy Jeffrey tonight? Would you do that for me?
Hello, there we go. Yeah, hello.
All right, well, very good. It is great to be here, and this is you know a lot of people, and
I know this is great. No, there's Leroy Miller. God bless you, Leroy. Oh, and there's Ron. Are you gonna get up and preach some more? No. Oh, hallelujah. He's like the Energizer Bunny. He goes on and on.
No, we appreciate Ron.
And oh, there's Steve in the back. Hi, Stevie. Oh, I love that old guy. I called him up the other day.
You called Steve?
Then somebody said, hello, this is the smartest man in the whole world.
In the whole world.
So right away, I knew I dialed the wrong number.
Well, we appreciate him so much.
And he's a good guy to have around when there's trouble.
Really?
Yeah, he's good at taking offerings and helping kids at trouble. Last week at church, a little kid got a quarter stuck in her throat, and they said, quick, go get Steve Stutzman, and he can get money out of anybody.
With that... Then, yeah.
Ooh, that's a good one, Leroy. And you want to hear another good one? No, I love Leroy is one of the best preachers in the whole world.
Is that right?
That's what he told me.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and we love his wife.
We do love your wife.
She's so sweet. She said Leroy is a model husband.
Oh, the good job.
No, it's not. I looked it up in the dictionary to see what that means. A model is a small representation of the real thing. Yep. Made a lot of sense to me. Oh, my word. No, I'm just kidding. She said his teeth are like stars.
They're shining.
No, they come out at night. Yeah. So every night before they go to bed, she says, Leroy, honey, I'm going to brush my teeth, and if you'll pull yours out, I'll brush yours so you do. That she calls him sugar.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's not so good. I looked it up in the dictionary to see what that means. Sugar is a refined sap. Made a lot of sense to me. Bless his heart. I think of you as kind of like a mountain, you know, snow-capped mountain, bold and tall and not much growing on top.
We are not here to pick on Leroy.
Yes, we are. Steve gave me $20 to do it. Yeah. Pay up, Steve. And not with a check.
Not with
the last time they gave us a check, it went boing, boing.
Well, anyways, all right. Well, we are here. We're going to do some storytelling tonight. We're going to do some singing.
I'm not singing.
If I say we sing,
then I've got to sing.
That's right. But we're going to tell a story tonight.
What do I get to be tonight? A smart guy like Solomon?
Not tonight.
A strong guy like Samson?
Nope. Today, you're going to be a guy with no food, no money. He has no place to live, and he's so hungry he has to eat pig food just to stay alive.
That sounds more like Ron Yoder.
No.
Now, can we get Ron to help?
You want Ron? Come up here real quick. Give Ron a big hand for helping us out tonight. Would you do that for me?
Ronnie! Good to see you, man. Good to see you're on the level.
He's on the level.
His bubble's in the middle.
Okay. All right. Well, we
Ooh, Leroy got that one. Ooh, Leroy's a little slow sometimes. I heard it takes him 2 hours to watch 60 Minutes.
All right. Well, thank you for helping us out, Ron. We appreciate it.
Get over here, Ron. You can shake my hand if you. Yeah, you're gonna have to help me, Ron. Be careful. It's solid plastic.
Okay.
And is the microphone working there, buddy? Testing. One, two, test. Is it?
Test.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Is it on?
1, 2, 3.
I don't need it, Ron. I'm a
1, 2,
puppet.
3.
You are taking this way too seriously.
Okay. All right. All right.
He's a couple horses short of a buggy ride.
No. All right. No. All right. Oh my! I'm sweating.
I'm sweating too, and I'm not even real.
Leroy is sweating too.
That's not sweat. That's sap.
Okay. No. Okay. Cannot believe you did that. can't believe you did it.
I can't believe you made me.
All right, well, anyways, let's do this. Our story, you know it, of course, the prodigal son, one of my favorite stories. There's this dad, he's got two sons. The one son comes to his dad and says, Dad, can I have my inheritance now?
What?
Inheritance.
Inheritance.
Inheritance. Inheritance. He's a dummy. He doesn't know how to say it right.
No, he's a dummy who doesn't know how to make me say it right. Okay. I got to get myself a new ventriloquist.
Hey, then I'll get myself a new dummy.
Hey, Leroy, you want to sit here?
No. Okay. Come on. All right. So, an inheritance is when a dad dies, he gives the money to his sons or children, children, whatever.
Oh. So when you die...
When I die, you get to keep the box.
Very funny. You just worry about moving your lips and let me tell the jokes.
Okay. All right. So the son comes and says, Dad, I want my inheritance now.
Dad, I would like to have my inheritance right now.
And the dad says,
Dude, I am not getting it to you.
And actually the dad does give it to him.
What?
Yeah, he gives him the money. And yeah, so you're his dad and you say yes.
What? I'm his dad? You're grounded. Okay. For all those cassette tapes, no more listening to the Stutzman family.
All right. So here he is. He goes off into the world to party.
Now start partying, Ron.
Start partying? How about dancing?
Yeah, do something. That's you partying. Wow, remind me never to go to your New Year's Eve party. We'll be asleep before 9 o'clock. Okay.
So he's there,
Start dancing. Leroy, close your eyes.
No. So he's out, he's out there and he starts, he's partying, he's eating.
Start eating, man.
Oh.
Pretend you're eating a chicken leg or something.
A chicken leg?
Yeah, that's good.
Like this?
Looks more like you're doing a flossing commercial or something.
So he's out there eating, he's out there drinking.
Start drinking, Ron. You thirsty. Gut. Keep going. Gut.
Jabbery.
What? It was him.
It was you.
I was just being a ventriloquist. It's not that hard.
So he's out there eating and drinking. All of a sudden, he has no more money left.
He invested in Boeing.
No. He had spent all his money.
That really deserved more.
Anyway, so Boeing.
That
was my fault. So, write it down. You'll get it later. So he's got no more money left. All of a sudden, he starts thinking he's got no money, right? He's got to find something to do because he's got no money left. He starts looking for a job. The only job he can find is feeding pigs. And he gets so hungry that he begins to eat the pig food.
Start eating, man. I'm cereal right now. I don't know. Where do you keep your pig food? Yep, it's down there, Ronald.
Please, down there.
Help, I've fallen and I can't get up. They got a button for that, Ron. That's good.
So he's there eating the pig food.
Start eating, man. That's good. That looks like you're at Waffle House.
All right, so he's eating Ron, you can stop. And so he's there eating, and he thinks back home, right? He thinks about how mom and dad, he thinks about how the servants were back where he grew up. And he thinks, the servants are better, have it better than I've got here. I'm going to go home. I'm going to say, Dad, would you forgive me? Take me back as a servant, and I'll be a servant, because that'd be so much better than what I've got going on here. So he goes. He goes and he comes to his dad. He gets on his hands and knees, and he says, Dad, will you forgive me?
He said hands and knees.
No.
Now, do it right, Ron. Do it right. Earn your dollar.
No. That's good. Go. Yeah, it's good. And then he says to him, go ahead.
Will you please forgive me?
Got to use the microphone, Ron.
Will you please forgive me?
No.
No. He says yes. What? He says yes. In fact, the dad says, I'm not going to forgive you and take you back as a servant. I am taking you back as my child.
Get over here, Ron. Group hug. Oh, I love you, buddy. Don't overdo it. Okay. Did you put deodorant on today?
All right.
Ron, how long you been married? A long time, right?
28 years.
I could tell you're very good at begging and pleading on your hands and knees.
All right, give him a big hand, Ron, everybody. Thank you very, very much. We appreciate Ron so much. I like that. It doesn't matter how far we have gone from the Father with open arms. The Father is there saying, come home, my child. I think for so many of us, we grew up in a church setting. I'm just curious, how many of you grew up in a church setting? I think, wow, just about everybody. And you grow up and you know what's right and you know what's wrong, and yet so many people see the sparkly lights of the world and they say, I want that. I want to try that. I want to go out there and see what the world has to offer. And what they find is false joy. Because what they've really looked for is happiness. And when the sparkly things of life fade away, there's nothing left. And I want to be really clear tonight. If that's you, there's really good news. God is wanting to welcome you home with open arms. And I worry that in our culture that we grow up in here, that sometimes we say, well, they're out. They're gone. Unbelievable. Did you hear what happened to so-and-so? Falling off the wagon. I wonder if we could do a little less of that, a little more praying, a little more following up like Ron's friend. And I have people say to me, but Ryan, yeah, but you don't know what I've done, the things that I've done, the places I've gone. I'm glad that God does not care where we've come from. Aren't you glad that God cares where we're going? And when we come to him at the foot of the cross, the past is in the past. We are wiped clean. It is forgiven, and we are a child of the King. I think adoption in this world is so special because a family, my family, adopted my brother. How great is that? We welcomed him in. We are adopted. I always told my brother, he says, well, I feel different. I said, you know how? You are different because the family chose you. They didn't choose me. This is who I was. They got who they was. Trust me, they wouldn't have chose me. I mean, if you got kids with receipts, I'd have been returned, right? So, but we've been invited into the family. How special is that? So much of a special that he said to his one and only son, I'm going to need you to pay a price for the adopted kids. I need you to do this. And tonight I'd like to talk about one other person in the story. That story may be you. And I'm a little bit jealous. I told this to Leroy at the last conference. I'm a little bit jealous of people who have these amazing testimonies. And I think you said don't ever be jealous of a testimony like that. Because God, if you know the things that I had to go through to get to where you are. But, I don't have a testimony of being far away from God and coming to God. I grew up at church. I realized that I was a sinner. I realized I needed God. But here's what I'd like to talk to the rest of us, okay? Ron's got it covered for the wayward son. Can I talk just a moment about the other son? Because that's a little bit more of my story. I was the son who tried to do good. I was the son who wanted to honor God. But the truth is, we still mess up, right? And I'm going to go on a little bunny trail for just a second because I want to share this. We did 9 prisons in 3 days with Nelson Koblenz. And if you know Nelson, he just goes all the time. And it was amazing. What you experience with, just feeling God's presence? It was amazing. And I flew home that night because I had to be at a church to speak at a church the next day. And I walked into the church, and it was the most dead experience I've ever experienced. And I was curious, what's the deal? Here are all these people that are just locked up in prison, and I could see God's presence. I could see people who were touched, who were being changed, who were excited, who realized they were sinners and were so excited about what they've been forgiven for. And then it hit me. Maybe it's because the other son, sometimes we forget just how much we've been forgiven for. You see, my Bible says that all the sin that we do is the same. Whether I've killed, whether I've murdered, whether I've lusted, whether nobody knows that sin. Sin is all sin. It's going to keep me away from God. And that sin is just as bad as that guy who's locked up. The difference is the law, the authorities, the world knows they're sinners. They know they're sinners. The judge has told them, you are a sinner. You are guilty. For the other son, sometimes we forget just how much we've been delivered from. Don't ever forget it. It's a challenge for you and for me. We need to be just as excited and on fire as these guys that say, boy, if you'd know the life that I live. I don't have that story. But I'm still forgiven. I was still sentenced guilty to hell. And I'm saved. Can I talk to the other son for just a moment? Because sometimes being the other son is hard. Sometimes being the son that everybody says is perfect is really hard. Because we're not perfect, are we? And sometimes the expectations are so high from those around us that we hide stuff, that we put up a facade. And just like my little buddy Jeffrey, who just moments ago seemed so alive, if I sit him here, he just sits there. And the truth is, this little guy has made people laugh all over the world. He's got a big smile on his face. He does good things. Goes to church every week. Maybe sometimes more than once. Today's the second time at a church. And we try to be perfect, but we're not. And so we put up a facade, trying to be these perfect Christians, trying to tell everybody we're okay, when sometimes we're not. When sometimes we're on a hard journey. We're going through tough stuff, but we're afraid that no one would understand. And what I've found out in my life is, if I'm willing to share that, there's a whole lot of other sons who say, really? You struggled too. You don't have to be all into pornography as a teenager to have temptations and struggles. It's just all of my friends were the good kids, and we thought we were the only one, and no one else would understand. I'm going to ask you tonight, I'm going to ask you tomorrow, would you join me? Would you look past the facade? Would you be real with yourself? Would you be real with God? Would you be real with the spouse back at home who you might need to go and make some things right? Tell some tough stuff. One of my friends said one of the hardest things I've ever had to do is tell my wife some stuff, but it's the best thing that I've ever done. Could we look past the facade? See, I grew up in a culture where if you went up and did an altar call one day, the next Sunday you're probably going to be up front having to tell the congregation what you did. Could we walk with each other? Could I be there for you? Could you be there for me? Could the expectation be that us other kids aren't going to be perfect? We don't have it together. We're sinners, condemned to hell. But because of that same grace that the other son received, we're on a journey. We don't have it together. But we need to walk with each other. And as I've gone around, I've discovered in this world there's a whole lot of other sons, other daughters. There's other sons and other daughters right in the Mennonite church that have experienced abuse. Things unimaginable. And I don't want us to pretend that it's not there. I want us to get real enough to say there are real issues in our churches. There's real stuff we need to deal with. Let's not pretend that we've got it all together, that we're perfect, because we're not. Can we admit that? Can we walk together in what God is calling us to? One of my favorite verses from the Old Testament is when Samuel is looking for the new king. And it's going to be the perfect guy, the guy who's got it all together. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things that people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. And a while ago, I was relating with somebody who was just about at the end, and they were deciding whether they wanted to end it all. And I wrote a song for them that's meant a lot to me, and I'd like to share it with you. I don't claim to be a good singer. I claim to have a song from the heart. I don't claim to be a wonderful songwriter. I claim to have a testimony from God. And I don't know you. I don't know what you're going through. You may be far, far from the Father. You may be that son at home that's got some attitude things he has to really work on. Some stuff, whether we realize it or not, that other son's got some stuff that he's got to be working on. I've gone through some tough stuff. I've gone through some really, really difficult valleys. But the God of the mountain is still God in the valleys. And so I'd like to share in closing of my time tonight a little song. And I'm a story guy. I love stories. I love big stories, epics, 3-hour long, 1,000-page kind of stories where there's good guys and there's bad guys. And the truth is, whether or not we like to admit it, life is a little bit like those stories. Sometimes it just seems hopeless. But it's not. The story's wrapping up. The good guys' luck is down. And evil seems to be succeeding. No hero can be found. But just when all seems to be lost and hope is oh so slim, it's when we turn the page again and find the good guys win. See, the story wasn't over. The battle's far from done, and Jesus has the victory. The war's already won. So no matter how dark the night, Jesus is shining bright. So don't give up, there's lots to do. The story isn't through. Now seems everywhere we turn, the devil's arrows hail. And no matter how much we try, sometimes we still fail. But just when you want to give up, you call upon that name, the one who holds our victory. You'll never be the same. The story isn't over. The battle's far from done. Jesus has the victory. The war's already won. So no matter how dark the night, Jesus is shining bright. So don't give up, there's lots to do. Your story isn't through. Your story isn't over. Your battle's far from done. Jesus holds your victory. Our war's already won. So no matter how dark the night, Jesus will be the light. So don't give up. There's lots to do. Your story isn't through. Don't give up. He's holding you. Your story is